I'm joined now by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely, it's good to see you.
Good seeing you. So the latest news that we have right now is that Donald Trump spent his Halloween hosting a Gatsby party, as if the imagery wasn't already strong enough, with him recreating his bathroom in marble and building a $350 million ballroom, adorning his Oval Office in gold. And so what do you make of the fact that this is how he decided to spend his time? These are the optics he was trying to put forward at the same time that we have millions upon millions upon millions of Americans wondering how they're going to eat and afford health care.
Yeah, I mean, he's made it very clear that he just doesn't care. The question is, will people be wise enough to see that it's not just Donald Trump? Donald Trump doesn't care, but he is afforded an opportunity not to care because of the people that he surrounds himself with, including House Republicans and Senate Republicans. The reason that people may not eat is because there's no pushback, even within his own party, to say, no, Mr. President, there are emergency funds and you need to make sure that you tap into those emergency funds. Or, Mr. President, instead of having a party, maybe we sit down in the Oval Office and maybe we negotiate an end to this stalemate. But no one around him is saying prioritize the very people that made it possible for you to sit on high, and obviously you are looking low.
And nothing kind of exemplifies that better than the fact that all this time we had Trump and Mike Johnson saying, oh, we can't possibly tap into this contingency fund because it's not used in this kind of an emergency. We need to keep it for some other emergency that may happen at some arbitrary date in the future. But then we had two judges come forward and say that you have to use these contingency funds, undermining Mike Johnson's argument, which would be bad enough unto itself because it puts on full display the extent to which Mike Johnson lied. But the response from this administration was, we are going to appeal. So they were given the out and they were told, no, it's okay, you can use these funds. And so you can feed these people who need food. And the administration's response to this was, we're going to appeal this decision because we don't want to be forced to be able to feed people who need these SNAP benefits. And so what's your response to that?
You know, people complain about Democratic messaging. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. The clearest message is actually coming from the president and this administration themselves. There's really not much for us to say. It is clear that they are not prioritizing the least sufficient people, the people that are really struggling the most, like the people that are trying their best. And I don't understand how it is that you can be a president of the United States and leave anybody out of that equation. But it has become very clear that if you are not rich, if you are not male, straight, and white, then most likely you won't be a priority. But this is so, I mean, to come from being elected by people that said that they were about Christian values. So that's why I use that language, the least of these, because that is biblical language, right? What you do for the least of these, you do unto me. That is talking about Jesus Christ himself. And so, as he has said, he doesn't believe that he's going to heaven. And I honestly could not agree more. He's probably not going to be on that list.
A rare point of agreement between you two.
Yeah. He's probably not going to be on the list of the pearly gates, because if you understand anything in his word, nothing about anything that he is doing, loving thy neighbor, this is not what loving thy neighbor looks like. And so I just want people to wake up, whether you're somebody that decided you were going to vote for him because you felt like it was the Christian thing to do, or whether you're somebody who voted for him because you felt like he was going to bring down the cost of food, the cost of housing, or whatever. It is time to wake up and recognize that he doesn't even care about you having the basics, from food to healthcare to shelter to a job. We know right now we've hit a record 1 million people that have lost jobs, and it's not even been a year since he's been in. He is killing our economy, and the only people that are getting richer are him and his family members, as he's decided that he is going to give some new contract to his son. That is what he's decided. His son all of a sudden has a drone company, and now the United States government is going to feed him and give money to him. He's also decided, in the midst of saying that we don't have enough money for health care, we don't have enough money for SNAP benefits, but I need to dig into the piggy bank and I need to get over $200 million because I feel like the federal government wronged me. This guy does not care. I don't know what else it is that anybody can say, because he is saying it all for his own self.
You talked about this idea of Christianity, and I don't know how much more on the nose you can get that you are acting in a way that's antithetical to your own religious beliefs than withholding medicine and withholding food, like healthcare to the sick and food to the hungry.
Yeah.
And so what do you say to Mike Johnson in light of the fact that because of these rulings, we now know that the contingency funds were able to be released to the hungry, and it was the only bulwark to that, the only barrier to that was Mike Johnson himself.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Johnson said it. He doesn't want people to eat because he feels like then the Democrats may not cave.
Right.
I mean, he made it clear.
Right.
And so you've got to understand, we are supposed to be public servants. And right now, we are not serving the public whatsoever. Everything that they're getting is nothing but hate and harm. And so people have to say, I require more. People have to say, you know what? I am someone who has always voted, say, this way. But this way is not working for my life. I have to do something different if I want to make sure that this world is going to survive and be better for my children and generations to come. It is time for us to wake up and start voting in our own best interest. Be very selfish about that vote and say, I'm going to vote for the person that's going to make sure that my small business can survive instead of being under attack by these tariffs that don't make sense. Or I am a farmer and I am going to vote in my own best interest, as right now we are looking at filing bankruptcy, or we've already filed bankruptcy, and I anticipated that this farm was going to stay in our family for even more generations.
Right. You
have to say, I am going to prioritize me. And by prioritizing me, that means that you can't continue to give people who refuse to govern an opportunity to inflict more harm. You can't rely on Democrats to just come and clean it up every time that they mess up. It is time for you to prioritize yourself.
We're about a month into this shutdown. If I'm not mistaken, this is the longest shutdown that we've had in modern American history.
I don't know if we've hit the number yet, but we're close.
We're
there.
Close.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that we'll get there. That's one milestone I don't doubt that Mike Johnson will be able to notch for himself. There is this very reductive talking point on the right that all Democrats have to do is just give those 7 votes and they can reopen the government like that. Why is it important that Democrats use what little leverage they have right now in advance of the government opening back up and try and get what they need here?
You know, right now they're basically saying we want the Democrats to choose between healthcare or food.
Right.
That is an impossible...
Pitting the sick against the hungry.
And frankly, a lot of times, the sick are most likely potentially going to be hungry as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap in that, right? And so the idea that is a false choice that they are asking us to make. Those of us that believe in our stations and we believe in our positions and we believe in the idea of swearing an oath to the Constitution and serving the people that put us into office. That is not a choice. That's not a real choice. And to be perfectly honest, if the Republicans want to be the ones to say, hey, we won't hand out food, we just want to make sure that people understand it was the Republicans that did that. Because as you've noted, not only was it a judge out of Rhode Island, but we also got a judge out of Boston, Massachusetts. They both ruled that by law, this is an emergency, right? Like, I mean, I don't know what else could be more emergent than the fact that people, not only did the judge in Rhode Island put in the fact that people would literally go hungry. He talked about the terror, the fear that is overcoming people, not knowing whether or not they will have food, and talking about that being irreparable harm. And that is the standard that he used. I think it was a proper standard, because cutting the food on, say 30 days later, well, who knows how many people are going to survive that 30 days? That is irreparable harm. And so the fact that they don't look at this as an emergency, the fact that they don't even think about this as being an emergency, while at the same time saying that we're under attack by Venezuelans and that's an emergency, or the Enemy Aliens Act needing to be invoked, all these things, that we're under attack in this country by immigrants, but you don't see what's happening with people that elected you. Because again, rural America uses more SNAP benefits than urban America. These are your voters. Overwhelmingly, rural America has voted Republican. And so he continues to inflict pain on them. And I just don't know what it is that I could say, because I don't think that I am the proper messenger for his voters. But I really do want his voters to do what they have consistently said Democrats need to stop talking about, which is, I want them to be woke. He wants you to be asleep. He doesn't want you to be conscious of the things that he is doing that is harming you and your family and your community. opportunities.
Right.
These are things that people potentially will not recover from. That's how bad it is. So we've got an opportunity. Obviously, you and I are standing right here in California. We are trying to do everything that we can to push back. We want to make sure that the people remain the source of power. And right now, they have basically decided to look at the very people that made it possible for them to be into position, and they're looking at them like they're nothing. That is what they're treating their voters like, that they're nothing. And it's so disrespectful, and it's so saddening, and it is absolutely not the Christian thing to do.
Last question here. There has been some reports that you're considering a Senate run in Texas.
Yeah.
Any reaction to that?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Obviously, people are probably like, it's crazy to think that a Democrat can win Texas. But under these circumstances, I think there's a possibility, number one. Number two, I think if we continue to do what we've done, then we're going to continue to lose. We consistently take a candidate who is a great candidate. We get great candidates with great resumes. And then we say things like, okay, let's spend a lot of money because hopefully everyone will learn that this is a great candidate, not understanding that in a state of 30 million people, it is very expensive and it takes a long time before we can get to the point that people actually know that person's name and know that person's story and believe that that's the person that they need. And so we've got to be very smart about this and do something different. Going with me is different. My name ID is already high, even though I only represent 1/38 of the state. In addition to that, we've got to find somebody that can expand the electorate. And right now, I don't know. I am doing testing. We're having to poll differently to see if there's any candidate that can give us that Obama spark, that can make people say, you know what, I don't know if we can win, but I really like that Jasmine, or I like that other person. And so I am going to go out, even though I've never voted, I want to do it now. If we can see that there's a trend in people that are saying, you know what, I normally would not vote, but if this person is on the ballot, I will, then we can win. Beto lost by a little less than 200,000 votes. That's nothing in a state of 30 million people. Right. So if we feel like we can really expand that electorate, we will run hard, we will run through the tape, we will run a race that we've never seen in the state of Texas, and we'll do everything that we can to win. Right. And let me tell you something, if we win Texas, there's no path whatsoever for a Republican to make it to the White House. We'll finally get the investments that we need in the state of Texas. So, you know, I'm going to do the analysis. We'll see. If I jump in, it's because I believe that I can win.